What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr Wargames, and today I'm going to bring you a test stand video to show you the consistency of the Synchron deck that I showed you guys the other day, involving the new cards of On Your Mark, Get Set, Duel, and of course the ACCEL Synchro Dragon. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. The only change I have made for the deck is I have taken out the Spore and swapped it over for 3 Evil Fawns. So this is a shout out to Crow Rider 1050 who mentioned this. The reason I didn't put them in initially was because I just felt that having 2 additional bricks in the deck wasn't that good. However, if you do complete the 2-card combo, which is even more consistent with stuff like tuning as well, you are able to get an Evil Fawn to the board, and if you're able to resolve both, you will be able to normal summon a Junk Synchron and go full speeder combo as well. Hopefully we'll be able to show you that in these test stands. So we'll do maybe 2 going first and 1 going second, just because it is a very long combo deck and is very, very in-depth. So our opening hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, we certainly do have that exact combo that I've literally just mentioned. So, we'll start off with On Your Mark, Get Set, Duel. You have to activate this while you have no other cards, because then it allows you to add a Synchro monster from your deck to the hand. Now, because we opened up Junk Converter, that's an additional line of being able to add consistency, because this can get you to your Necro Synchro or vice versa. The idea would be here, now you can discard the Necro Synchron or you can discard the Stardust Synchron. And of course, you're going to want to search out your junk. Now, this combo is going to be mad because we've opened up all of the core pieces that we could possibly want to get everything going. So you start off with your Acasta. You're going to discard your Necro Synchro and then summon out the Acasta. And this will summon you out the Ant from the deck. In doing so, what this is going to allow you to do is this is going to allow you to sync instantly for a level 8. And this is going to be able to get you into the brand new ACCEL Synchro Stardust. The effect of the Stardust will trigger to revive the Necro from the graveyard, and then you're going to be able to sync these 2 together and go into a Baron on your, I believe, 4th summon. So this puts Baron Shield well protected from the Biru, which is absolutely amazing. And because it was used to make a Wind Synchro monster, your Necro Synchron will trigger to special summon a level 1 plant from the deck, being Evil Fawn. You'll then trigger this Evil Fawn's effect, and this will tribute itself to spawn up to 2 from the deck and burn your opponent for 300. Now, not to mention that we've got the Converter in the graveyard, which just means this is going to get even more wild, and the Stardust. But ignoring all of that straight away, you can just normal summon your Junk Synchron. Junk Synchron's effect will go off to bring back your Junk Converter, and then what you do here is you sync all these 3 together, and this is going to allow you to get into your speeder. Now this is going to allow you to special summon 3 Synchrons from the deck. So obviously what you're going to want to go for is straight away, I'm going to go for Stardust. We're also then going to go for Jet. And then the last one is entirely up to you on the levels of Synchro plays you want to make. What I mean by that is obviously option number 1 will of course be a Junk Synchron. Option number 2 would be your Cyberse Synchron, because this can be level manipulation. So this can basically make an 8 or 2 2s. So it's entirely up to you on how you want to do it. Trying to feel where Junk would get me the most advantage, and honestly I'm going to go for Herald of the Arc Light, so I'm actually going to summon out the Synchron. We're going to use Stardust as effect. This is going to allow us to add the Stardust Illumination, and this is going to allow us to activate and Foolish Burial the Stardust Trial. In doing so, I do have the ability to make a 9 or a 8 when I do resolve the Stardust effect in the graveyard, but that's for something to deal with later on. One thing you might want to do, if you wanted to do it now, is you could actually get more draws in play. And what I mean by that is, if I was to banish the Illumination from the graveyard, reduce this Stardust level down to 3, and then sync it off with the Junk Converter, this means that I get earlier access to my Hyper Librarian, meaning that I'm going to be able to get a lot more draws as we go forward. So in doing that, what you've then got the capabilities of is you've got the ability of the Junk Converter to trigger, and this will allow you to target a tuner in the graveyard and special summon it. So we've got a 4, a 3, or a 2. They are all tuners on the board at this exact moment in time. So just try and figure the best route of play for this one out. We've got this that can become a 2, meaning that that become a 6. And then to complete my 6, I want to go into, let's go into an 8. So that becomes a 6, which means I want a level 2 tuner on the board. So I'll be going for the Necro Synchron. So what we do here is we're going to use Jet plus the Speeder, as it is our only other non-tuner. And we're going to go into Charge Warrior. This will give us 2 draws, one off the Librarian, one off Charge Warrior. And of course it does mean that Charge Warrior is a non-tuner, which is why it's really important, is that when you're going into your Synchros, you need to make sure you're getting the non-tuners to the board in order to kind of maximize the value of where you want to push and how you want to go. Now the next play is entirely up to you. You can go for Stardust Dragon or you can go for a Mega. I'm personally going to go for a Mega purely because I like the idea of going, okay, cool, draw. I can also put the Illumination or a Stardust or a Trail back into the graveyard during my opponent's standby phase. And if I need to create more space, I can of course use a Mega to rip from my opponent's hand. Keeping in mind previously, because I used the Jet Synchron effect, if I wanted to, when I made the Charge Warrior, I could search out a Synchron monster, but the chances are I'm going to use Jet later on, so I can do that again. You can only use 1 Jet effect per turn as well, so that's really important. So if I decide to bring it back, I'm not going to get the search, or I do the search at that point, and I want to be bringing it back, so that's the route I'm going to go. Now keep in mind, if anything comes back from the graveyard, ideally the Stardust, I will have the ability to trigger Stardust from the graveyard and Trail from the graveyard and Doppel from the hand. So you kind of want to make sure you've got extra space on the board as well, which is why a Mega comes in really, really nicely. Now I could try and utilize it. If I had drawn into an extender, I could have extended onto the board and then used the Stardust Synchron. But what we're going to do is we're going to tribute that off. We're going to summon back the Stardust Synchron. And then we're going to be able to go Chain Link 1, Doppel from the hand, Chain Link 2, Trail from the graveyard. So they should both come down here. Keep in mind that Doppel is a when effect and Stardust Trail is an if effect. So you've got the ability to pretty much, this comes back, first thing to happen will be Doppel, and then of course you've got Stardust as an if. Now you've got the ability to go for a level 8 if you want to. I could go straight into a level 10 and spawn 2 more tokens. The only issue of going to the level 10 and spawning 2 more tokens is that I don't have any more tuners. So that 10 would have to be something like the Sovereign from Sword Souls, just so you've got a boss monster on the board. If you want to climb a little bit higher, you've got the ability of going into a Stardust. You could go into a 6 if you want to as well and spawn 2 more tokens. The issue is you need to be able to make sure that you're possible to produce more tuners. You do have one in the graveyard in the form of Jet, so that is something you need to keep in mind as well when you are conducting these plays. So let's go with, I don't really want a 6 and I don't really want a 10, so I suppose the best thing to do would be to go to an 8. They're both going to get banished. I'll draw a card off of Hyper Librarian. Rotor, that's kind of cool. And then this is where Jet's going to come into play. So with Jet, I'm actually going to send, I'm going to send the Acasta because I'm not going to use that again. The Ant's already in the graveyard. And we're going to summon back the Jet. Now it's entirely up to you on how far you want to push here. Now what I mean by that is, annoyingly, your Doppel has to summon out 2 exactly. So you're either going to use Omega now to rip from your opponent's hand, open up a bit of space, and then you can continue to spawn the board, or you're going to go down a different route and play it a little bit differently from there. So just try and think this one through. So if that goes there, he will go there, spawn 2 tokens, but then he can't bring one back from the graveyard. So that could be a little bit tricky. I don't really want to go for a 6 or a 9. I mean, I could go in for an 11. But I don't really like, I quite like leaving Stardust on the board, to be fair. So I suppose we'll use Omega's effect. We'll rip one from our opponent's hand just to open up a bit of space. And then the play you've got here is it means you won't be able to use the Metal Marcher effect, but you would go Jet and Doppel. Obviously Jet, I believe Jet is banished when it leaves the field. I can never remember this one. Yeah, but banish when it leaves the field. Because obviously you get different tuners that do it different ways. So you go into your Metal Marcher. Now, if you choose to use Metal Marcher's effect to bring back a tuner, you won't be able to spawn the Doppel tokens. I actually want to spawn the Doppel tokens because that's going to be opening up more plays for me, and I'll get the ability of Hyper Librarian to draw. So we do the draw off of that. We've then got the ability of Metal Marcher, so we use Metal Marcher plus 1 of the tokens. And we're going to go into a level 4. You could go straight into an ACCEL Synchron for a 5, but I'm going to get a search of an extender. So we're going to go into Cupid Pitch. I can increase Cupid Pitch to a level 7 or reduce it to a level 1, which can get a little bit more interesting if you want to, because if you reduce it to a level 1 and then you sync that with the token, you go into your double star shaman. Keep in mind, you've got to remember that a mandatory trigger to draw off of the Hyper Librarian. Do I want to make it a 7? I don't want to make it a 7. I don't even want to change its levels because I'm going to want to go a little bit further into the Synchro realms. And we're going to go into ACCEL Synchron, which will give me a mandatory draw. And then the effect off of Cupid Pitch will give me the ability to search. And I'm going to go for the Calicro. Now, obviously, I definitely am considering putting the Hop-Ear Squadron back into the deck because I quite like the idea of adding Hop-Ear Squadron, and then during my opponent's turn I've got the ability to sync into a level 10 here with the Stardust, but I've also got the ability to sync into a level 10 here as well. Now I can use the ability of ACCEL Synchron if I want to adapt its level, but there's not really anything I want to kind of adapt to because there's not really anything I can push further forward. The only reason of dropping this down, or the only reason to do that, is I would use this effect if I had the Hop-Ear Squadron and I would send the junk from the deck to the graveyard, special summon down the Crow, meaning that this is now a level 2, and I'd sync these two together and go into a Herald. So at that point, I'd then get a draw off of the Hyper Librarian and I'll pass my turn there. So I've got a full hand of 6. I'd probably need to set a couple of cards just to air them out. Set a couple of cards there, pass to my opponent. Now, obviously, if I had Hop-Ear, I wouldn't have got the extension of the Calicro. So you can kind of see that you either go Hop-Ear into Satellite Warrior, or you leave the ACCEL on the board and you go ACCEL with Hyper Librarian and go from there. So the end board, again, they've got to deal with 2 Omni Negates, they've got the Destruction Protection off the Stardust, and then a very slow moving and increasing on your mark, get set, duel kind of thing. You still have a Stardust in the graveyard for the next turn, and you'll have the Omega coming back as well. So even if they clear your board off, as long as they don't OTK you, your Omega will be coming back into circulation. So now I'm going to reset the graveyard. Keep in mind that if you did go into your Satellite Warrior, it would have had the ability to pop 5 cards, which is absolutely mental and very, very powerful. So can't go wrong with that too much. Okay, moving on to the next one. So this one, again, we'll do another test stand going first. I'll do this one a little bit faster and less explanation, and then I'll do one going second. I want to try and get these videos to about half an hour at max and try and split each test stand to about 10 minutes, give or take, just to give you as much information as possible and so you can see how the deck operates itself. So after another decent shuffle and a good old cut, our opening hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is the only downside of seeing Evil Fawn in the hand. It just sucks. But we haven't got as much protection from a Nibiru with this particular hand because we're pretty much going to burn through our normal play. Now, I'm going to put the Stardust in the graveyard so that if my Junk Synchron gets negated or anything like that, I still have a little bit of play. It's not ideal though. So this one is very, very, very flimsy to opponents' interactions because like an Ash on that can be damaging. Imperm on here, it's not the most, you know, if it was the most consistent deck, everyone would be playing it. Junk Synchron, bring back Junk Converter, sync these two together, go directly into Speeder. So this is like old school. This is how these have been playing since they got the new cards. We then get to use Junk Speeder as 1, Converter as 2. So Converter will bring back Junk Synchron, and then you have to spawn as many as you can. So at this exact point I have the ability to spawn 4, so I will be spawning 4 with different names. So 1, 2, 3, and my 4th one is there, 4. Keep in mind this came back from the graveyard. I didn't spawn it for Speeder before everyone's like, oh my god, you did it. Effect of the Stardust, I'm going to get Illumination, going to activate Illumination, we're going to Foolish Burial of the Trail. Because that is going to give us, at this point, we're now in Nibiru territory. If they wanted to Nibiru us, we would then have to pop the Nibiru, which isn't bad actually, because if they Nibiru us, we still have the ability of the Stardust in the graveyard to pop the token, and then bring back Stardust, bring back Trail, sync those into ACCEL. ACCEL will bring back the Necro, and then if you want to, you have the ability to go to a Baron during your opponent's turn. So, and that Baron would be unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. And you'd still have Jet in the graveyard as well, so you have a lot of plays to make. So, at this point here, this is where you've got to be very, very careful, because you need to make sure that you gain advantage while also leaving non-tuners on the board, because the second you go too deep is where you will really struggle. So we're going to go straight into a 6. We're going to go into Charge Warrior. We're going to draw a card. Nice. Then, of course, if you want to, trying to think if we go, let's go to an 8. We're just gonna, yeah, we're gonna get a non-tuner to the board. So we're gonna go into an 8, which will be the ACCEL. Technically, you could use the Necro Synchro now because it was used for an 8, but we're gonna use ACCEL to bring it back, and then you're gonna sync these two together, and you're gonna go into your Baron. So Baron's now going to protect everything going forward. Your Necro effect can now trigger because, again, it was used as a wind, and this will let you special summon out a plant from the deck. And we'll go for Evil Fawn. Unfortunately, we did open up an Evil Fawn, so the only reason of using its effect now would be to burn your opponent for 300, just to make sure you are up on life points. There we go. Now, the other issue here is, well, I mean, you've got plays to make. We're going to go for draws rather than anything else. So I could go into a Herald if I wanted to, but we're going to go directly into a 5, and that's going to be our Librarian. I could go into ACCEL if you want to, but again, it's producing too many tuners becomes the issue. You then use Stardust in the graveyard to tribute off one of the junks, and that will, of course, trigger the trail in the graveyard as well. If you wanted to go for a Synchro 7, you could do. That could be Yazi plays if you play it. I personally don't. So we're going to be using these, and we're going to sync these both together, and we're going to go into an 8. Now, you can go into Stardust if you want to. I'm going to go into Omega. This will allow me to draw a card off of the Librarian. Ooh, okay. That's spicy. That's very spicy. Interesting. I mean, it doesn't make much of a difference. It just adds an additional draw to our play. So the Evil Fawn is a bit of a brick right now. So we'll discard the Evil Fawn, summon out the Acasta. Acasta will summon out the Ant from the deck. There we go. Then you could sync these together. We're going to go into another 8, which will be Stardust Dragon. I'll shuffle this up properly, and we'll get the draw off of the Librarian. Ooh, broken. Jester coming in clutch. Keep in mind, we play like 2 Jester and like 3 Crow, so we've got a good chance of getting extenders. So we special summon down Jester before everyone's like, oh, how did you do that? Stacked. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we've got the option. We can go into Herald if we want to, end our board there, or you can go into Cupid Pitch, and the ability of Cupid Pitch is basically to search out the Cali Crow or Hoppier Squadron and then extend your plays further. Personally, I'm going to go with the Herald. I'm going to draw 1 card, and I'm quite happy to leave it there, to be fair. I think if I go any further, I'll just be wasting resource. I still have Jet in the graveyard if I want to, but by leaving it here, my only issue is that I left Librarian in attack. But past my opponent, during the standby phase, effect of Omega to put Trail back. Don't put Stardust back because you've already got one in the grave. And if you don't, it's very easy to get one to the graveyard. Yeah, there you go. And then once you've done that, you use Omega's effect to rip one of your opponent's card of advantage. And then you've got an Omni-Negate. Everything sent from deck or hand is banished. Destruction Protection. And yeah, and then it's going to come back to you. And if you went the Hoppier Squadron route, you'd still have the ability to sync even further. Cool. So now let's start going second. This is where the deck needs its side deck, because the only card which I've taken out for the Evil Fawns that was in the main deck for like going second was Nibiru. You could put in Droplets. Cash Tier is going to be an issue. You could put Book of Eclipses. They can be pretty good. You've just got to kind of find the best board breaker for the environment you'll go into, and then utilize that to its max potential. So we're going to shuffle this up, and we'll do a final test hand, and this time this test hand will be going second. So we'll show you what the sixth card can do, and that's where you kind of swap your level 10 focus from being Baron orientated to being Satellite Warrior orientated. So after a decent shuffle, cut. Our draw will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Very, very interesting. So we'll activate On Your Mark. On Your Mark will trigger. Now, what Synchron do I want to add? I mean, I've got access to 2, basically. So let's go with, I mean, Junk's like the ideal one, really, isn't it? The issue with this hand is that there's quite a few ways that our opponent can interact with us, and that will stop our play. And if they're going second, they're going to have more forms of interruption, more forms of negation, you name it. And I mean, what I mean by that is, like, instantly, if I normal summon this and my opponent negates it, like, woof, that's it, I'm not going anywhere. In doing so, though, if we activate Junk Converter just to put it into the graveyard, we'll search ourselves out. I was going to go for Necro, but I'll keep Necro in the deck because I can summon that out. We'll go for, where are you? Let's go for Junk. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to normal the Junk. Junk's effect will revive the Converter. We'll sync with Converter. I mean, you could sync with the carry if you want to and leave Converter on the board, entirely up to you. We're going to Speeder. Then you get to go Chain Link 1 Speeder, Chain Link 2 Converter. That's probably the best way of doing this. Let's bring back Junk. And then we get to summon 3 from the deck. So from the deck, we'll go for Jet, because it means we can recur from the graveyard. We'll go for Necro, and we'll go for Stardust. And then Stardust effect will trigger, and this will allow us to search us out a... Where are you? Illumination, activate Illumination, put in Trail to the graveyard, just so you've done that. It's there, done, out of the way. Okie dokie, so I'm going to go here. Oh, actually, no, I'm not. I mean, if I do it this way, the reason for doing it this way is it just means I get an additional draw. Not that I need it, but this is the greedy way. If you want to go the other way, you play it a lot more refined, so to speak. So what you'd then do here is you'd then banish the Illumination, turn this to a level 5, sync these two together, go into Baron, effect of TG to draw 1, and then we've still got plays to make as well. So we still have the ability of activating Stardust. We'll get rid of Jet for now. Stardust will also trigger to bring back Trail. Actually, no, we won't get rid of Jet. We'll get rid of the Necro. This will bring back Trail. Sync these two together. They'll both get banished. Go into ACCEL. ACCEL's effect, so mandatory draw for Librarian. ACCEL to bring back Necro. I'm at a point where I've got enough. How many Synchros have I got in the grave? I've only got 1 in the grave. I'd have 2 by the time I make that. So I don't really want to go into my 10 right now. So just to go that little bit further, we'll sync these together and go into a 6. We'll draw 1 off of that. Then what we will do here is we can bring back 6, 7, 8, 9. Doesn't really do what I want it to do. Already done that, already done that. Have I done a caster yet? I don't think I have. No, I haven't. So we'll do a caster, we'll get rid of the Evil Fawn. This will summon out Ant. So what I'm doing now is I'm basically just trying to fill up my graveyard with Synchros. And Synchros. And in doing so, that will then unlock me more capabilities a little bit later on. But it's basically just trying to put as many Synchros to the graveyard as I can to gain access to a stronger Satellite Warrior. 6, 7, 8, 9. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we go, that's what I want. So can I get another tuner back? I can only get another level 1 tuner back, which would be Jets. 2, 5, that's only 7 anyway. I don't know why I thought a caster was a 6. So 5, 6, it's 11 already. It's an 8. Okay, I guess we're going to have to do it this way. Not ideal, but, you know, it works. Omega. And then what we do here is... Oh, I really want to go further. So sad. Stardust. I could tag him out for Stardust, to be fair. Too many 8s. Oh, I know, I haven't got enough darks on the board. Woof. Actually, I will, because Necro Synchro will trigger. That will summon out. I think I'm okay, actually. Summon out Evil Form. We can use Evil Form's effect just to burn our opponent down a little bit. And then, because you control dark, special... Oh, no, there we go. Where are we? Jet effect. Summon itself back. Put Stardust to the graveyard. Sync 1, 2, 3. There we go. So that is a 10. Goes into Satellite. Satellite's effect will trigger. Satellite has 1, 2, 3, 4. So Satellite has the ability to pop 4, not to mention Baron would have popped 1 already, and gain 4k. And yeah, then we're good. So pop 5 in total with this board, and then swinging in for 6, 5, 28, 25, and 3k. So guarantees the game on that one there. Again, it wasn't as protected as I would have liked it to be, but it's the fact that you have a card in the form of the a caster that just drags so much out of your opponent. And then going second sets you up the Satellite play. You've also got the Satellite play off of the ACCEL if you want to as well, because that's during the main phase. But I honestly don't think it's fully needed. You kind of want to go Baron just to get the summon off of the back of the Necro. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this has given you a couple of ideas on your own build. I hope this has kind of opened your eyes on how this deck can play and what different options you have. Any questions at all, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. However, as absolutely always, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.